Hey everybody, it's Tim from Tadabase here, and this is Build It with Tim. I've got a quick tip for you today, but it is incredibly handy, useful, and I do see it being asked a lot. So let me paint a little picture for you. Inside your application, you are submitting new records for some kind of object or entity. In this case, we are talking about project management, so we are submitting new projects. When I submit a new project, I want to send an email notification with a link to view the details of this particular record. What I mean by that is that if we take a look at this table component that is displaying all of our current projects, if I click on the details link, it's going to take us into the detail page to view the details of that particular project. Now, this doesn't have to be for projects specifically. This could be for anything. This could be for events, users, customers, products, companies. It doesn't matter what it is. The point here is that we're talking about a detail page that displays information about one particular record. So how would I create a link that I could then send out when creating a new record that would allow users to then come directly back to the detail page? Before we get into that, we need to dissect the actual page URL a little bit to help us understand what's happening here. Let's go back a step onto the actual projects page, and then we'll open up that URL once again. If we take a look at our full URL that's in our address bar of our browser, we have our account.tadabase.io. This could also be a custom domain if you are using a custom domain, but this is the root of our actual application. Then we have the name of the application. Now, if you're using a custom domain, you're not going to see the name of the application. You will simply, the next thing that you will see is this, which is the page slug. The page slug tells us which page we are currently viewing. So this could say login, sign up, projects, home, customers, companies, whatever it is the parent level page that is currently representing what we are looking at. Now, when I navigate to a detail page and we continue to inspect that URL, you're going to see that we have some values here appended to everything that I just explained. The next thing we have is the page slug of the detail page. And then we have the record ID. The record ID is generated by Tadabase behind the scenes, but we do give you access to it in a couple different places in case you need to use it. If you're familiar with our API or anything like that, then you've likely seen record IDs and table IDs before. In fact, you may have even seen them and you never even realized it. If we head back to the builder here and we take a look at our projects data table and once again inspect that URL, we even have a table ID listed right here and an app ID listed right there. So there's lots of IDs that are being generated behind the scenes, but the one we want to focus on today is the record ID. So in order to build this link, we're going to need two things. We're going to need one, that record ID, and we're also going to need the URL of the detail page minus the record ID. So I'm going to go back to this page. I'm going to highlight this and copy it. I'm going to go back into my projects data table and I'm going to add two new fields. The first one is going to be a text field and I'll call this record ID. The second one is going to be a text formula and we are going to paste in our URL from our detail page, like I said, minus the record ID. So we're going to remove that, but we're going to ensure that there is a slash still at the end of that string. Once we add it, you can see that we now have what would be known as our base URL, and then we can simply add that record ID field here at the end to complete that full URL and let us build a link. Now, if we take a look at this text formula right now, you can see there is no record ID at the end. First, we actually have to populate that value into our record ID text field. Now, there's two ways to do this typically. The first one would be through the use of table rules right here in the data builder. The second one would be through the actual page builder using a form component and record rules. You can do that same type of logic inside of record rules as well. Now, I typically like to do it inside of table rules, so I'm going to do it here. We'll say when a record is created or edited. In this case, I'm going to choose created or edited because I'm going to update these historical or existing records with the record ID. So I'm going to choose created or edited. And then I'm going to say set the record ID text field to a record value of record ID. So you're going to see in this dropdown, we have all of the available fields inside of our table. Then we also have this kind of hidden one, the one that is generated behind the scenes, and that is the actual Tadabase record ID. I can save that rule, go back to my records, and simply edit this record in any way just to trigger that rule and populate our text field. Going back to our text formula field after refreshing the table, you're going to see that we now have a completed URL. Now, the next step is going to be actually emailing this out. So we're going to pick a page where projects are being added. In our case, it's under the project manager's layout, the projects page, and then we have a child page called add projects, which is a form to add a new project record. I'm going to click into that form and then click on the notifications tab. Make sure emails is selected and choose add a new email. I need to change this from basic email to custom email and then simply start configuring the email notification that I'm going to send. So for testing purposes, I'm going to send it to myself. And we're going to then fill out the rest of the subject and the message. Let's start with our subject where we'll just say new project submission, action required. Then we can start building out our actual email message, but I've already done so once, so I'm going to paste it in here and then explain to you what's going on. So we're going to start off with just our welcome message in this particular email body, and then we can start to include fields from our data table. Now, what that looks like is by clicking the Add Field button up here in the top right corner, we can choose any of the fields from our table that are available in this dropdown to add to our email body. When they are added, you'll see that they are wrapped in an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket. This lets us know that this is a dynamic field that is being referenced from our data table. So I've included things like the project title, the project manager, the project description, as well as the project manager once more here. But then I have a link at the bottom that says view project. Now the way you can build these links and include that text formula is simply by clicking on the link, insert edit link button at the top of the editor. We can then insert that dynamic field value by doing an open curly bracket, the name of our field that contains that link, the closed curly bracket, and then I can just give it text to display. Decide whether or not I want to open it in a new window or not, and now we have our link. If we look at the actual HTML that's occurring behind the scenes, you can see that we have this value here is included as the actual link URL that's going to be sent. Okay, so just by updating and saving this, our email is now complete. To finish off this video, we're going to quickly go back here and test this particular function that we've built. I'm going to refresh the page just to make sure that everything has taken effect. And I'm going to simply just add a new project. I can give it a title, a description, select a project manager. And when I click save, what's going to happen is this. The record is going to be created. The table rule is going to be triggered. It's going to populate our record ID field with the Tadabase record ID. That's going to then be concatenated inside of the text formula field that we set up. And the end result will be a full accessible URL to the detail page of this project. Also, at the end of this form submission, after all that is done, then our email notification will be sent out as we configured it that includes that details link that we created. I'll click save now, and all that processing has been done. If I check my email, you'll see that I already have an email with all of this data. Test project submitted by this user. Here is our description. And at the very bottom is the link that takes us back to the detail page. I click that, and now you can see it's going to take me right back into my application and allow me to view the details of the project that we just submitted. All right, so that's it for this week's episode of Build It with Tim. It's a really quick tip, like I said before, but it is super handy when you need to send out those links and bring people back into your application. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you found it useful, and we'll see you next time. Take care.